Welcome to the Mindfulness of Singing, and I'm Denise, your sassy, spunky scientist.
And I'm Tony, your bubbly, big-hearted flower child.
Our podcast features practical tips and tools for a journey of transformation using the healing power of your voice.
Each podcast, we will delve into the mind, body, and spirit connection by interviewing inspirational guests, sharing personal stories, and discussing the most recent scientific research.
Tune in and join our community of mindful singers. Good morning, Tony. How are you?
Good morning, Denise. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. What's your weather there? Because I'm struggling weather-wise.
I've been struggling weather-wise ever since I arrived here last spring. Let me tell you, the weather is just constantly,
Yeah,
we've
right.
had a gloomy and rainy. And the allergies, are you having that trouble too?
It's that, and it's for me, it's not so much allergies as well, maybe. For me, it's barometric pressure. So, like, we're up on this mountain, I mean,
Mhm.
it's not the Rockies, but still, we're at a higher sea level than I'm used to, and we live up on what they call Three Tower um, Mountain,
Mhm.
and uh, and when the weather gets sort of overcast and a lot of raininess or anything like that, then I begin to really have a lot of um, sinus headaches. I
Oh,
start having, and then my eyes feel heavy or whatever. And I think about that, and I think about how when you go to a new place as a singer and you go to a new Colorado. Have you ever sung in Colorado?
yeah.
Oh my lord. I had an audition there once. I don't know if you know this story, but I auditioned there once and it was disastrous because no one prepared me for how different things would be in Denver. I had a constant bloody nose.
Hmm.
I felt like I could not breathe. It was not good. And I totally screwed that audition. I mean, it was so not worth going out there. But I did not know that I needed to, like, go early, kinda get acclimated to the space, and no one told me. I mean, now in hindsight, I wish I could shake that voice teacher I had at the time who sent me on that audition because he didn't tell me. He told me nothing about that.
Wow.
And and then I'm there and I'm calling him and I'm going, "I can't breathe and my nose will not stop bleeding." And he was like, "Oh, well, you need to do this and you should have gone a few days early." I'm like, "Now you tell me. Now you what? What? Altitude has something to do with singing?" I'm like 23 years old. I don't know shit
Um,
at 23.
right.
Not
And
about that. I mean, I think I do because I'm 23 and I think I know everything. But,
yeah.
mm,
Surprise, surprise.
yeah, yeah. And so anyway, it was disastrous. And so singers, when you're going to go somewhere and there's going to be a huge weather change,
A
check your
time
weather,
change. Time
check your
change.
weather app, time change also. Look at the time change, go early. Go a few if you there's any way possible, you can go a few days before, get your sleep acclimated, your food, your eating schedule acclimated, I can't say that enough. Hydrate.
And don't drink alcohol on the plane because
Oh
that's
God, no. Yeah, no, that wasn't my problem. But I drove out there. But anyway, don't do any of that. And try to be very cognitive of not just the time change, but if you're at a different altitude, you may want to do a little altitude training before you go there, which you can find all kinds of apps for that. It's some breath work that will help you with CO2 or really high oxygenation. It'll help you with that. Um, and that will give you an edge because you'll be more prepared, not only mentally, but also
physically.
physically, because, when I did that as a young 23-year-old, I was like, what's wrong with me? Why can't why is this not? Yeah, at first I thought I had the flu or a cold or something, but I didn't. I all totally cleared up as soon as I left that high altitude. It was just I had some, not really high altitude sickness, but kind of like that.
Adjustment.
It
Mm-hmm.
was a huge adjustment. And it's been an adjustment for me here. And the first place it shows up is in the heaviness of my eyes and sinus pressure for me. It doesn't really show up in my cords so much, but it definitely messes with my energy, my sense that I have a lot of energy or whatever. And about midday I kind of get over it, but man, I a little sinus headache right here over this left eye this morning. And it's the
Sorry.
weather. Well, I mean, it's not COVID. It's just a little headache.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, lots of things could be worse, but I'm just saying if I were having to audition today, it would be hard.
Right. Right.
So singers, pay attention to weather and time change and that barometric pressure of a different altitude when you plan for an audition. Be really strategic about that.
Giving yourself time. Yep.
Yeah. So we talked about body this morning. Let's talk about something else. You got something else?
I do have something else. Denise, do you have your BHAG for this year? For
My
this
what?
your BHAG. It stands for, well, actually I'm leaving a letter out. It's your big, fat, hairy, audacious goal. It's a thing, Denise. Look it up.
My big, fat,
Fat,
hair,
hairy. It's what
audacious,
audacious,
audacious.
audacious,
Oh, yes, of course.
big
Goal.
fat hair. And if you Google that, you'll see tons of things on it. But the whole idea is that little goals inspire just a little work and a little change, but something that's a stretch goal that's beyond your comprehension, inconceivable, causes you to BHAG. Is that what did it come up with? Did you look it up?
No, I didn't look it up. But
No.
here's my thing, or my question. Do I have to have one do I have to be a part of the in crowd?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to have, which I'm totally not.
For those who are just listening, we're doing some really silly faces. You're missing the audio, the
Yeah.
visual on
Yeah.
Denise's
Yeah.
being on the
No,
in
I'm
crowd.
being
But
the
anyway,
actress. But
yes.
anyway, no, I would say, do I have to have one for this year? Because I have one. And I've had it since COVID, and it is definitely moving me forward in a big way.
Cool.
There's a deadline.
It's smart, specific, measurable, all that. Realistic, achievable.
Specific, measurable, actionable,
Yes.
realistic,
Realistic,
and
time sensitive.
time sensitive. It is all of those things. It is a SMART goal, and it is a big, hairy goal.
Okay.
I'm not going to say what it is because, but
That's a good point, because some big, fat, hairy, audacious goals we should keep to ourselves, because we don't want people to rain on them, to put
that's not
water
why I
on.
don't share it.
But there's some that we should share, and some that we should hold ourselves accountable by sharing. I read a great book by Darren Hardy. I was thinking about it the other day. I was on a flight back from a conference, and it was to plan your best year ever. And it gave you the steps to plan your BHAG. Look it up. I'm not sure if the F is in there or not. But anyway, at the
That's
time,
terrible. I'm not going to say that online, and you better.
I know, that's why I think it's not. I think it's just BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. But anyway, the one that I set, I wasn't a runner at the time. Didn't even have a pair of running shoes. And it was early January, February, and the half marathon was happening in March. And I said, I'm going to run it. And that was a crazy goal. And I did. And it was thrilling and exhilarating, and without a trainer or a coach, and running. And I lived in a cul-de-sac, and I ran in that same cul-de-sac over and over. And anyway, yeah. So if you haven't set a stretch goal, something that seems crazy, this is a great time to do it. So that's
The word fat's not in it.
Oh, okay. It's just
It's
BHAG.
big, hairy, audacious, And you can find all kinds of things. There's a big, hairy, audacious goal. There's big, hairy, audacious vision statements. You can find workbook sheets,
Yes.
workbooks.
Okay. I knew that when I tried to say it with the F, that didn't work, but BHAG. Yes, a BHAG.
I don't know who came up with it first. It looks like a dude named Jim Collins
Oh,
is
yeah. He's a big
is
personal
into
development.
it apparently. But I will say that the people who should know about my big, hairy, audacious goal do know about it. Like I have my friends and a coach, life coach, business coach person knows about it. But it's otherwise it's something I keep to myself.
Right. The people who can hold you accountable and help you
Yes.
reach your BHAG. Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, let's bring on our guest. Tell us who's joining us today, Denise.
Today we have Rachel Lynes or Lynn's. I'm not sure
Lines.
because she's British, and she is a singer and an actress, and was on the West End for quite a while. Which we have another guest that's going to come on the show that is singing and has been singing on West End. So shout out to all of our London West End singers. Um, and she started becoming a vocal coach, voice teacher, and it's called the Singspace Studio. And she's doing some great things, some really cool, generous, beautiful things. And I can't wait for us to talk to her. So she's our next guest.
Well, let's bring her on.
Okay. Good morning, Rachel Lyns. Did I say your name correctly?
Quite,
Lines?
not quite. Don't worry about it. Let's it's lines. But
Lines. Okay. After I said that, I was like, it's not American, Denise. It's British.
any
Lines.
my name's never really felt like my name. I don't know why. I've never really felt like it sat right. So, I can be Lynn's today. We can go with
Is it Raquel or Rachel?
Rachel.
Okay, good. At least I got that
Rachel
part right. Although Raquel is nice, but okay. All right.
Yeah.
And And we're here this morning because I found you on Facebook, where we are members of a mutual group. It's a voice teacher coaching group, and I saw some stuff that you posted about the Singspace studio, and I was like, what's that? And I kind of dug in and started reading, and I was like, oh. Well, okay, we need to have Miss Rachel on. This could be a really good conversation. So you started this during COVID, right? And tell us the rest of the story. Tell us, well, just tell us. I'm guessing. So tell us.
In brief, I spent 10 years performing in the West End back in the day. And then I was am a vocal coach for about 8 years in person.
Rachel, aren't you like 16? How did you do
What I
that
was
back in
going
the
to say.
day?
That's back in the day. How did she have back in the day?
Were you Annie? What? What?
I'm hitting. I'm not 16. I'm definitely not. So I spent. You can do the maths. 10 years in the West End. 10 years. 10 years vocal coaching. Yeah, I graduated when I was about 20. So it's been great, and it's all been in person, obviously. So it's either been in an actual studio in London, or in my own home studio, and then suddenly, obviously, COVID put a stop to that. So the Singspace was already happening pre-COVID.
As your business, correct?
Business. So it's called the Singspace, and it's basically me offering one-to-one coaching, but also matching people with my colleagues. So it's really nice to be able to pass on the work to other coaches. So we've started developing almost a team of Singspace coaches who all work from the same ethos, which I'd love to talk about as well. It's just a really nice kind of curiosity-led ethos of following the student to take them where they need to go. And we've got a really great group of like-minded coaches, And I was also offering some kind of courses to professional musical theatre performers and to professional performers, not all musical theatre, we had some pop artists as well, and running choirs as well. So we had a busy studio with probably, I was running about 4 or 5 group classes a week, and then, kind of full-time one-to-one coaching. And then when that all stopped, I did the Facebook thing is crazy. It's gone from 250 people on our little group to 12,000. And it's happened entirely organically. There's been no kind of paid advertising. It just started off with, on that first day of lockdown, I got home, my family home where I've got 4 kids, and I really missed my choir. I'd had to pack up our Soho studio and carry the keyboard to Wiltshire, which is about an hour and a half out of London. And I went onto our little Facebook group and said, hey, while we're in lockdown, which I imagine will only be a few weeks at that time, was in my head, I'm going to come on here and do a free class every day so that we can all check in with each other. And then that, because of doing these free classes, people just started coming to the group. So I started bringing the other Singspace coaches on to do more free classes, and it started growing faster. And so that's how it all began there. It was just a community-based growth, really.
That's a beautiful story. That's lovely.
It is.
So
And I have to say go ahead, Tony. You've been wanting to say something for a while because you raised your finger a minute ago.
I did. So being the literalist, it is a literal space as well as a figurative, the sing space, correct?
I mean, it's a space. There isn't one sing space, but we were based in Wimbledon, in southwest London, and then I had a couple of different rehearsal venues in central London as well.
Beautiful.
Wow. This gives me faith in the voice teaching community in a lot of ways, just simply because I think voice teachers tend to be really territorial, can be very territorial, and don't want to give up students, or wouldn't give up students, or be able to admit this might not be a good fit for me. Should do that with someone else. I don't know. I mean, maybe Britain, maybe you guys are just better at that than we are, but American teachers, I don't know if that would happen. Maybe I'm old and cynical because, when you say back in the day, Rachel, I'm very afraid of what I should say. But anyway, back in the prehistoric years, um,
I doesn't it? Since I've met the most incredible group people in the voice pedagogy and the voice coaching community, because there was something that happened when this all kicked off. Whereas some people, I think, went into their own bubbles, and some people came together and saw an immediate need to hold each other's hands and to share. And it's been beautifully kind of circular what's happened. I've been learning from people who've been giving away their content, and I've been able to share that and teach other people, and they've been able to learn from me and to share with someone else, and we've ended up with this really beautiful thing happening. And a lot of those people have now come to become kind of regular faculty at the Singspace. So a lot of the people who I only met maybe 12 weeks ago are now coming in once a month to coach.
that's great. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I wish we were better at holding each other's hands in general. Of course, as you know, us as a country right now are having some real struggles. So sometimes that leaks into other things, so it's hard. It's hard for an American teacher and hard for an American at all right now. It's a really dark time for us. So
it is, and it's a big country. I think there's such a need for community right now.
yeah, and such a need for singing.
Yeah. It's just so good for us, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's so good for us. I have this thing that I'm sure you feel, that every time I finish a session, I have something that feels very distinctly like the same feeling as gratitude feels.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned before that we've got Heidi Moss who's a neuroscientist coming in to do a 6-week course on singing in the brain. I really want to talk to her. I mean, you two might know what exactly is happening that relates to singing, that feeling, that very physical sensation
Yeah.
in your body after singing that feels so similar to that very kind of that strong feeling of
Y-
gratitude.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to take that course, wouldn't you, Tony?
Yeah. In fact, we were just talking about that a few weeks ago because Denise was mentioning how so many young people that start off in a career path, it's because they get addicted to that high that you have after performing. But you can have that same high without an audience. And I think we get addicted to feeling, well, it is sweet to have somebody to share it with. But I think sometimes we get in a trap that that's only the only value that there is and not in the value of just singing for yourself.
And
Hmm.
people don't necessarily have to be a paying audience. I think that's why choirs sit between those two things. You're right. I think that we get hooked to the feeling of singing, and then think that means that we want to do it in front of an audience. And some of us don't. I think that's where I went wrong. And I had a good career. I hit kind of West End leads, and I didn't like it. I didn't personally like the position it put me in of having to try and be perfect the whole time.
Hmm.
I used to miss the rehearsal room and miss
The
Right.
play, the
yeah,
fun, the joy.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that.
my favorite thing is to sing with a group of people. I love singing with a group of people. I miss it because here in the States, it's hard to find a good community group that might meet the professional singers standards. And I don't want to go to church just to sing in a group, so it's hard. It's really hard to find that. I know in the London area there are lots of singing groups that are quite good. And I don't live in a big town. Like if I lived in New York, I could probably find that, or if I lived in Chicago or Seattle, I could probably easily find that. But in the middle of Southwest Virginia, it's not it's not something I'm going to find. But yeah, no, that whole uh, the brain, singing in the brain, and then we're really just kind of figuring some of that out. But when you sing in a group, I mean, the feel good hormones just flood the body, and when you're able to help someone and you're singing with them, not to mention the vagus nerve gets really calmed, and it's quite, and neuroplasticity and all the firings and the left and the right side, fire together in a way that it doesn't during speech, and it bypasses speech. I mean, it's pretty amazing what the brain does when we sing. But
That's
I'd
why
still love to, and I know only a little bit, so I would love to take the class. I'm going to look into that when we get done.
It's not announced yet, so I will let you know when it. So I've just finished speaking to Heidi, and she's just sent over the full proposal for the 6-week course. So exciting! And I like secretly I got her in to teach the course because I want to do the course. So I thought, what course do I most want to do? Hey, I want to work with Heidi Moss. Is there any chance you'll come in and work with the Singspace? And yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I think I'm right in saying I think that almost every part of the brain fires when we sing. And I don't know if there's many other activities that create that same activity throughout the entirety of the brain, like logic, memory, emotion, primal urges. There's so motor responses. I think it gets everything going, and that's a very exhilarating feeling.
my background is also in music therapy, and that was one of the fascinating things that we did when you bring together people who are having neurological problems that maybe they can't remember what they ate yesterday, but you play a song from their youth and they know every word. And so
That's my father. My father can sing every hymn. He's 95. He can sing every hymn ever written because he was a pastor, a minister, a rector, and he literally can't remember if he had breakfast. He doesn't know who I am. Very occasionally he will go, aren't we related? Um, he's gotten to the point where sometimes he wakes up and doesn't know who my mother is. But if you say, "Hey, Dad, let's sing Amazing Grace," he can sing it, and he remembers every word. It's that, and that is stunning to me. And sometimes when I want to just see some old spark of my father, we'll sing together.
That must
oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
be
So
So
when, yeah, go ahead, Tony. Ask.
So we're so excited and thrilled that you're with us today and that you've done such a great, cool thing during these trying times. So how can people follow you and join this tribe? Get your pen and paper and write this down.
Okay, the simple way is you can just join the Singspace on Facebook, and that's free. And there is a lot of free content there. I would just say put a the there because Singspace was already taken and it's a karaoke app. So make sure you put your the there and just check the description.
Those little words are important.
I might need to talk to them about a collaboration. And then we have a program which is which is a paid membership program. It's $29.99 a month in UK pounds, so I'm not sure what that is in dollars, and that gives you complete,
Probably like around $35, $38, somewhere around in there.
so that gives you full access to everything, which is around 40 hours worth of content and classes. So my main thing that I do now, and what I've created and what I'm most proud of during this time, is I've created a vocal gym. And although gym sounds a little bit like it's something that's quite kind of pumpy, it's a very holistic kind of playful. I open up every single morning at might not work so well your time, 10:30 UK time, but they are on catch up, so it's all in one group, so you can go in and you can dip into any class, and it's a half-hour vocal exploration, vocal workout that I run Monday to Friday within that membership. So we every morning we meet, we do a mindfulness / body awareness / stretch and massage for 10 minutes, just to kind of step into the new space and to have that heightened awareness and kind of proprioception to carry into the next 20 minutes. And then we do 10 minutes of pure SOVT work and vocal health, where we just bubble and lip trill and get the body's responses going and get that back pressure kind of filtering through, tune into the resonance. And then we do some proper kind of play. You know, we get everything. We just go up and down the range and try different notes and try different setups and gestures and look at everything. And what's really cool about this is that every day we have a constant of focus. Got about 50 different focuses. So one day that whole setup will be from the perspective of audiation and hearing it inside your head. The next day that whole setup might be from the perspective of your tongue, having an awareness. And the next day it might be from the perspective of feeling resonance in your body, or it could be from the perspective of larynx, awareness, or body breath connection. So that each time it's just a space not to kind of be told what to do, but just to get very conscious in your own ability and the spectrum of your possibilities as a singer as well. So that happens every morning as part of the membership, and then there's another kind of like 16 or 20 classes that happen on top of that as well.
Wow.
Are those pre-recorded, or are people attending through Zoom?
So we're all live. The vocal gym,
Cool.
I stream it, so I'm here, like I'm there, but I can't see people. But being an actress for a long time, I have very good imagination. I know most of the people there, so I can kind of I feel like we're all in a room together. So that one's on Facebook, and people can comment. And there's a lot. There's Stephen King did one today. There was 100 comments in a half-hour session because everyone's really kind of gets involved. And the others are all on Zoom, and then they get uploaded to a kind of vault storage, so you can dip in and do any of the classes.
As painful as things are right now, it's so nice to hear somebody doing so many beautiful things that give back. And this wouldn't have happened without this. I don't imagine, I can't speak for you, but your creativity has really been sparked and inspired in a dark time. And so no excuse to stop singing. In fact, more reasons, because you can connect with people around the globe. In fact, I just had a funny thought. Denise twisted my arm into all of this, but it was a good twist because I was supposed to be a nomad right now. And I guess in a sense I am. It's just not the nomad I had envisioned. So I am connecting with beautiful people around the world that I would never have met. It's just virtually instead of in person. So thank you
Right.
for all you're doing. And I hope you all are inspired to join her and join all the opportunities that are available to experience singing as play. I do have one other question. I'll turn it over to Denise. We probably need to wrap up, but you mentioned in your previous years, which is funny to us as young, as beautiful as you are. If
She
you could,
said back in the day,
yeah, yeah.
like it was
It's the same.
45 years ago or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, last week
Yeah.
when she was performing at the
Yeah.
West End. But anyway, if you could turn back time and you have all the wisdom that you have now, what would you say to your young singer?
I'd say it starts with yourself before you can work on your singing voice. Interestingly, I'll send you an article. I wrote that I had nodules. We don't have time to go into it, but I went through a lot of rehabilitation when I was performing, and I wrote an article, what would I say as a rehabilitation kind of specialist in some ways now to my younger self. And I would say, yeah, it starts, it's not going to happen unless you start with yourself. I mean, as you said, like the most of this most of our vocal anatomy, as you know, is connected to the autonomic nervous system, and it doesn't respond if we don't feel safe and we don't feel connected with ourselves. If you want it's so I would say, yeah, I would say trust your own instinct. And also I'd say, just because the singing, I'm going to ramble here, but just because singing is very ambiguous, it gives experts a lot of the time this feeling that they can tell people that they know the answers. And I would say, they don't know
Yes.
the answers. No one actually knows the answers. Not even, no matter how much they're charging, no matter how good their reviews are, and there is actually no one who knows the answers to the voice. It is a mystery. We can guide you, but you have to be part of the journey yourself as the student. And you have to steer your own car. I think it's, and embrace the kind of ambiguous, wondrous nature of the voice rather than being scared of it.
Very
Right.
well said. I
Absolutely.
think
I
that
have one. Go ahead.
I think it comes back to this mindfulness, that
Well,
because in our back in the day, we weren't taught that we had a thought. It was the teacher was God,
Mm.
and whatever they said you needed to do. And so your own input wasn't as valued. And I've asked that to a few other people and I get the same response over and over. So if you happen to be a younger singer and you're listening, learn from all these years of wisdom of people who would take more ownership, who would drive their own car, who would listen to their own voice. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Denise.
I was just going to wanted to clarify something for our listeners. So, not to put you on the spot, but when you say rehabilitation, so for us that means maybe you had some throat thing that you needed to have rehabilitated, or you were in rehabilitation for a broken arm or a broken leg. Is that what you're talking about when you say rehabilitation?
Yeah, I had vocal nodules when I was at Arts Ed. So Arts Ed was one of the kind of the number one training academy for
Right.
musical. And it hit me at like second year at Arts Ed. I got the whole kind of soft nodules, but I got challenged without being able to sing. And then that the residual nature of that, the
Mhm.
reflux and the anxiety carried me through career. And I believe now, looking back, the whole thing was probably not physiological. It was probably a fear thing that
Mm, mhm.
I think I was probably okay physically. But yes, that quest for an expert to fix you.
Yeah. Right. 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 Okay. Yeah, sometimes the British lingo and the American lingo don't jive, and I just wanted to be sure that we were talking about the same thing, just so that our listeners knew what you meant by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, and I do know that I work in the space with a lot of with some speech language pathologists. I do a lot of collaboration with them, and have observed hours and hours and hours of speech language pathologists in a clinical setting. And one of the things that I do know is that back in the day, when somebody got nodules,
Are you?
it was a big deal. Like 10 years ago, if you got nodules, it was a big deal. Like you were like, and that happened to you more than 10 years ago. So it was a really big deal. People thought maybe the voice would never be the same. They panicked, lots of alarm bells went off. And not that it's not a concerning or serious matter, especially if you don't change whatever it is that's happening, right? But now we know that, it isn't disastrous. It's not a catastrophe. That you don't have to have surgery. You don't have to have all of these things done to you. Oh, you go see a speech language pathologist and they help you figure out what the root cause is, and you try to work in that space. So it's it 20 years ago, if you were told you had nodes, it could really cause a spin out, not just in your own self, but in people's trust of you taking care of your own vocal health. And it was a big deal, much more so than it is now. Thank God. Now we kind of have some answers we didn't have back then.
Yeah.
And you can recover quite well, as you clearly show,
Yeah, I mean,
from it.
and that's exactly it. It was very medicalized, and it was feared, and I was treated differently at college. I think
Absolutely.
told to hold back vocally to try and save my voice, which I think we you can imagine that would mean I interpreted it as an 18-year-old as hold my breath and probably to tense up the muscles to hold back that language. The interpretation of those words, save, hold, make you do some of the things that were oppositional to singing, which is to release the breath and to release the muscles.
Right.
You try to control it, which I think perpetuated the cycle.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Well, I hope everybody will check you out on Facebook. And I'm assuming you're on Instagram as well, for those who don't do Facebook.
We're on the Singspace, the Singspace. The Singspace is on there, and I'm also on Rachel Lynes, vocal coach, on Instagram as well.
Okay. And they can join your .com in
Yeah,
order to become a member. That's not on Facebook. You can like it on Facebook.
yeah,
You can follow it on Instagram, but in order to become a member, you have to go to the .com, thesingspace.com, and you
exactly.
have to sign up, and she'll figure out the US dollars to pounds,
Yeah.
however that works. It's more in US dollars than it is in pounds because their dollar's stronger than ours. And then you'll be able to have access to all the things. Rachel, I have a question about the business end of it,
Yeah,
just for those listening. So, were you already doing things like the vocal gym and having guests and stuff like that when you were the Sing Space and you had a
no,
so? And did people have the app before or did all of that come out of COVID?
all came out of COVID.
Wow.
It's been crazy. It's been
Yeah.
crazy.
So you're doing that. You're interviewing people. You're raising kids.
Yeah, I
Four.
just keep
Four
saying,
kids? Four
yeah,
kids?
yeah.
Rachel, you know how that happens, right?
I don't. Well, we're two mums, so it wasn't an accident either.
Oh my gosh.
We did this to
Totally planned. Well,
Ah,
you are a better person than I, too. And I was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, so she doesn't. She's a very good mama, and she does a lot of the work. I'm very lucky. I have the kind of the go to work role at the moment because oh my goodness, that role that's a hectic job. So
Oh, my goodness.
wow.
Okay. Well, Rachel Lynes, you
um,
are awesome. We dig that. That's great. I love to hear these kinds of stories. I wish you so much success. I noticed you have 4,000 followers in the Sing Space studio on
yeah,
Facebook. I just looked. It's a little over 4,000. I hope the next time I look, I hope you have 40,000.
Yeah, we hope we can add to that number, and 12,000 on the Facebook page.
so we've got a group and a page just to be confusing because I don't plan any of this. I just say yes and things happen. We've got 6.5 on the group. We've got 4.5 on the page. And we've
Oh,
got 1200 on Instagram as well. So I don't know how to talk to everyone at the same time. So I just probably repeating myself here and there and everywhere. But yes, come and I'd love to read your book. I'd really love to read your book.
We'll keep you
Thank
posted.
you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your time with us. All the best. Blessings on all the
Yes.
cool things you're doing. So thank you.
I'll let you know when the Singing in the Brain course is happening as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening. We are very grateful that you joined us today.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe, write a review, share it with a friend.